Hello fun people, I'm Isaac Carlson, and we're going to be uncovering the messed up backstory behind Shrek's first villain, the devious, tyrannical, and perfectionist Lord Farquaad. Before he became the ruler of Duloc, according to Shrek The Musical, Maximus Farquaad was born to an unlikely pair, a princess and a minor. His mother was said to be a princess who left her crown behind and gave up being a queen to marry her true love, who was significantly shorter than her. And when I mean short, I mean Farquaad himself describes his father in the Ballad of Farquaad as being beneath her knee. But his mother had an issue. His father's bed was too uncomfortable for her, so he constructed a massive bed 25 mattresses tall for her, likely indicating that Farquaad's mother was actually the princess from The Princess and the Pea. Unfortunately though, soon after Farquaad was born, his mother fell off the tall structure and died, making his father terribly grumpy. That's so morbid. Lord Farquaad explains that he never knew his mother and was pushed away by his father because of his disinterest with the family business. It turns out the future ruler did not want to be a man foraging for diamonds and living underground like his hi-ho screamin' papa, who at this point, I'm sure you guessed, is one of Snow White's 7 dwarves, the most frustrated, skeptical, and harshest dwarf, Grumpy. But even though Farquaad dismissed being a minor, it wouldn't be until decades later that he finally took action to create the life he wanted when his father left him out in the woods at the young age of 28.
You mean that horrible little man who tried to keep me down my whole life? That vile grunt who abandoned me in the woods as a child?
Feeling abandoned now that he could no longer live in his father's basement, he was ready to fight against the fairy tale creatures like his father and rise to a position of power that his mother had rejected. He was determined to not allow his parents, his childhood, or even his stature to keep him down.
I'm all grown up and bigger than you'll ever know. You're gonna pay, Daddy. It's any day, Daddy. I'm off to work.
This small man wanted to make sure that he finally took control of the parts of his life that he had the ability to dominate. Now, he was ready to become a lord.
No one's gonna bring me down.
By either using riches he already had, by using his influence as the son of a princess, or through connections that he had established, Farquaad took control of the province of Duloc and began molding it into what he deemed as his perfect kingdom. Below the like button, I'd love to hear what you believe was the most important factor in Farquaad's early life that got him Duloc. Regardless though, once Farquaad secured a variety of dedicated guards around him and henchmen like Thelonious, who all believed in his vision, he declared himself a lord of this land and constructed his castle in the countryside. This structure became higher than the mountaintops and clearly showed how manly, important, and intimidating he was as a leader, and was not at all him compensating for his troubled childhood with his parents and his size.
Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
The lordship of Duloc was constructed as a city-state centered around Farquaad's enormous castle and featured symmetrical planning, unified theming, and rigid rules for all the townspeople. Every aspect of Farquaad's kingdom was specifically placed and thought through. All who were brought to live here were forced to obey strict commands that guided their behavior, appearance, and even when they were able to cheer at events.
Embrace the cookie cutter in Duloc.
We're all the same.
It was truly a picture-perfect place, complete with monorail and gift shop. As long as everyone bought the Farquaad merchandise and conformed to the demands of the Lord, they would all be safe, which I'm sure was extremely comforting for everyone. You know what they say, don't make waves, stay in line, and we'll get along fine. Duloc is a perfect place. Oof. I mean, minus the dragon security in the cathedral, but I'm sure Farquaad would eventually see that fatal flaw, right? Beyond that one mistake though, it's also a pretty harsh place for dancers who make a mistake during one of Farquaad's performances, as you are at a high risk of being killed because no one could mess up his groove, and no one could restrain his growing ego. Every citizen, dancer, and soldier praised Farquaad, stating for example that he was the one who taught them all ballet, flamenco, and jazz. I mean, he could have been taught dance with his royal heritage, but either way in Duloc, no one could take down the rising lord. I mean, pretty much you didn't really have a lot of freedom if you lived in Duloc. In hopes of making the realm as perfect as it could be, there wasn't a whole lot of room for the ability for people to make decisions in this dictatorship. So to be honest, I probably wouldn't want to live there. But if you'd like to spend some time at a place with a very fancy information booth, which has always been my favorite part of Duloc, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. There weren't just a few rules to follow in Farquaad's kingdom though. There were also restrictions on what type of person could be there, as the Lord believed that his perfect place could not consist of fairy tale beings like his father.
All fairy tale creatures have been banished from the kingdom of Duloc.
Man, it really sounds like I'm talking about some holy entity, but it's really just this miniature leader.
I am authorized to place you both under arrest and transport you to a designated resettlement facility.
Believing that these magical creatures infested Duloc and were beneath him, yeah, imagine that, beneath him, he set out to remove them all from his realm. With a bounty on all fairy tale individuals, Farquaad orders his knights to arrest, collect, and relocate them far, far away. Not in far, far away the kingdom though, just in a distant place. Suddenly, Farquaad was claiming land far and wide from helpless individuals and forcing them to the outer edges by caging these creatures and shuttling them across his province, such as out to Ogre Swamps.
He huffed and he puffed and he signed an eviction notice.
But as Lord Farquaad's kingdom began to approach his idea of perfection, he began to go to farther and farther lengths to ensure he would achieve order. Ironically, to ensure that he consolidated his power and ensure he had the greatest leverage over all of his enemies, he did order his guards to go in search of magical artifacts like a magic mirror. Even though he didn't want the fairy tale creatures who made and used this magic, he was more than happy to hoard their formidable items. In addition, knowing that many fairy tale creatures continued to hide from his men, for fun, he began to torture them in hopes of finding where they were being protected.
I'm not the monster here, you are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world.
And he even began to represent how disposable and insignificant the fairy tale people were to him by eventually turning Mama Bear into a rug for his room. Farquaad was more than pleased to show in any way that he could that he was superior, intimidating, and had the ability to dominate the fairy tale creatures. Even though he wasn't even a person who had the traits that he forced others to abide by, meaning that even by his own definition, he wasn't even perfect, especially because he was born from a fairy tale person, he convinced himself that he was morally sound, was deserving of his rule, and was someone who could torture and kill others to perfect his kingdom. Lord Farquaad had completely corrupted himself and refused to feel any remorse for what he was doing, as we can see from his ability to relax in his bed, drink,
Pina colada.
play video games, and stay refreshed in his bathtub. He was off living his lavish life to spite his father and claim the life his mother hadn't. I believe Farquaad was there to show the world that he had the ability to become as large, strong, and powerful as he saw in himself. And at the moment, he had achieved that goal. For now, Lord Farquaad was leveraging his soldiers, using his wealth, and forcing his citizens to obey him to fabricate his perfect world. But of course, this pursuit was not over yet. To complete his perfect kingdom, he would soon have to figure out how to become a king. But let me know down below what your thoughts and theories are about Lord Farquaad's backstory, and if you'd like me to discuss what happened to him after he died. Also make sure to subscribe and click the beautiful bell, and then click on another magical video in the description or on the screen. Finally, as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.